has got me charged.
Hey guys, what's going on? So I apologize if I'm still a little bit stuffy. I'm still trying to get over this cold, so I probably sound like shit. So a lot of you have been asking me to do a video as far as my experience with K-9. And I'm sure, as some of you remember, some of you follow me like religiously. You're awesome, by the way. But as some of you know, I was a K-9 handler for 2 years with the previous department that I was with. And in those 2 years, I learned a lot about K-9 training. There was a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff that I saw. So I'm sure some of the things I'm about to say might step on some toes, and I don't mean to do that. That's not the point of this video. But I do feel the need to put the truth out there behind K-9 training and what K-9 actually entails. So when I was picked to do K-9, I had to do an interview and everything else, and I was the most qualified candidate, so I got the position. After going through the interview, I'd actually been with the department for 6 years at the time, and after the interview, they sent me to K-9 school, which was out of state. So I spent a month out of state. My training was for 4 weeks because my dog was dual purpose. I'll explain what that means in just a second. So basically the way it works is whenever a department wants to have a dog, they contact a third-party private company, and that company is responsible for training the dogs most of the time. So what they do is usually like the owner or the managers or whatever of these private companies will send people overseas to hand select these dogs. And they put these puppies through some pretty like rigorous tests to make sure that they have like the high drive that they want or that they're looking for. So once they've determined what dogs they want, they have them shipped to the United States, and then that company is responsible for taking them and training them to be police dogs. And training can last anywhere from like 6 months to a year. It just really depends on the dog and the program. Well, once that dog is fully trained, then they send an officer to the school for a month. And like I said, the dog's already trained. It's a matter of getting the officer acclimated to the terminology. Most of the month is spent in classroom or doing practical training. Usually the first part of it is classroom. It's where they're teaching you like pack mentality, basically dog psychology and why dogs do what they do and how to control your dog. So usually by the third or second day, they give you your dog because they want you guys to start forming a bond, and you're going to be working with this dog constantly. So they want to make sure that you're comfortable with it. Well, when I went through, I remember my dog was the most aggressive dog out of the entire group. So naturally, I was nervous. I had never been a K-9 handler before. So like I was expecting to get bit. So like the first 3 days that I had him, like I had my leash extended as far as I could, trying not to get bit. I basically had a Tasmanian devil at the end of my leash. So fast forward a little bit, me and my dog, we instantly got a bond. Like this dog was awesome. I loved him so much from the first day, and he really grew attached to me too. What's so cool about K-9s, these dogs are so different than any other pet that you've ever had. These aren't pets. These are working dogs. And when I say working dogs, they will pace back and forth in their cage until it's time to go back to work. These dogs get so bored so easily. They are constantly just go, go, go all the time. That's why they're not recommended as pets. Because unless you have like 4 or 5 hours a day to train them or work with them or exercise them or whatever, they're going to get into trouble. They get mischievous and they start chewing on things because they're bored. And the intelligence level of these dogs is far superior from any other dog. So overall, like I love K-9 training, and the area that I was doing this training at, I won't say their name on camera, it was snowing, and of course I love the snow, so I was happy as hell, and my partner, he was always cold. The thing that bothered me about K-9, the first thing that they teach you when they give you one of these dogs is that your dog is nothing more than a tool, just like anything else you would have on your belt. And for people that love dogs like me, that's a very hard concept. It's hard to adapt to that. I mean, he's a dog, he's an animal, just like any other pet. So usually the day consisted of, we'd wake up early in the morning, and we were staying at a hotel, so I had my dog in a crate, my partner had his dog in a crate, and we would get them out, like we would get up at like 4:30 in the morning, and we'd get up, we'd let our dogs out. Of course it was cold as hell, so we had our heavy jackets on. We'd let them go to the bathroom, we'd start our cars, let them get warmed up, and then we'd load our dogs up and we would head to training. You get to training, you have a little bit of class time, and then like every hour they want you to go outside and like let your dog out in case they have to go to the bathroom so they don't go in the back of the car. But what bothered me about K-9 training, I'll never forget, we went on a trip. It was like an hour away from this facility, and it was this huge warehouse. I've never seen a bigger warehouse than this. The first red flag for me was when they told all of us to leave our cell phones in the car. Like, what do you want us to leave our cell phones in the car for? They didn't want us filming what was about to happen in this warehouse. So long story short, this was basically correcting bad behavior. That's what this whole day was about. And there was one dog in particular. He wasn't part of our group. He was actually already on the road. Like, his handler had already been working with him for like 6 months. And even after 6 months, this handler was scared to death of his dog because he kept getting bit by him. So the owner of this company and one of his assistants, they brought the dog inside. They tied him off to like one of those concrete poles that was inside the building. And then they put another leash around his neck with the metal prongs. And they gave that end of the leash to the handler. So it was like pole, dog, handler. Every time this dog misbehaved, they would pull on the leash. So the pole was pulling him one way, they were pulling him another way, and all this strain was being placed on his neck. And at first it wasn't that hard. At first it was just like a quick correction. But then the dog bit his handler right in front of everybody, and this guy was like dripping blood. They had to call EMS. Like, they had to come out and patch him up. So after the dog did that, I guess the owner of the company, he was really good at what he did. I mean, he was very good at understanding dogs and how they worked. He noticed the telltale signs whenever that dog was about to snap. And as soon as he would see that, he would put his full body weight onto these leashes. Keep in mind, this guy was like 300 pounds. How would you feel with 300 pounds put on your neck? And I'll never forget the scream that this dog let out. I mean, it was just flailing its head back and forth and just screaming bloody murder. But it corrected the problem. He stopped biting the handler that day. And this is not an everyday occurrence. Let me go ahead and reiterate the fact. This does not happen with every dog. Not every dog is mistreated like this. That's not, again, I know I'm going to step on some toes. People are going to take this video the wrong way. I'm saying that it was that one particular dog. This dog was horrible. Police canines are really seen in a totally different light than most dogs. I mean, these dogs are almost indestructible. I felt bad having to do corrections on my dog, but it was the only way I could get him to understand that he needs to stop for a second and listen to what I'm telling him. See, one thing you have to remember in a pack mentality is that these dogs are going to keep trying you because they want to be the pack leader. So you basically have to show them that that's not going to happen. Now, even though I've put out, like I said, like this brutal truth of canine training, let me reiterate again the fact that most canine handlers are not like that with their dog. Most canine handlers love their dog. They have a great bond with them. Every canine handler that I work with now in my department are awesome at what they do. They treat their dogs well. So canine training is basically split into 3 parts. Almost all of them are trained for drugs, but some of them are also trained to bite and to track. But they group those together and they call it apprehension. So it's technically a dual purpose dog because they put tracking and bite together and they call it apprehension. And I'll be the first to admit, if you have never worn a fat boy suit, as I call it, and you have this angry German Shepherd running towards you about to bite you, it's a little alarming. Even with the full bodysuit on, like, the pressure from their jaws is just incredible. Like, I really felt, there was a couple times I felt my arm was gonna snap. Alright, so all the depressing shit aside, I do have a couple good stories. So one of the biggest things that they try to teach you when you're a canine handler is that you have to trust your dog. Your dog's nose is like 10,000 times better than yours. So usually whenever they're onto something, they're probably right. So one day we had this guy, one of the officers tried to do a traffic stop on him and he took off. Well, he ends up crashing his car. He gets out, he runs. So they called me out there because they wanted me to do a track on the guy. So me and my canine get out there. So we're going down these railroad tracks and we're walking what seemed like forever. And I started getting frustrated with my canine. I'm like, there's no way he's still on this damn track. Like, he got sidetracked somewhere. So like, I was tugging on him because I was trying to recast. Like, I was trying to get him to pick up the scent again so we could keep on going. Well, he keeps on pulling me, and he's very persistent about this track. And then out of nowhere, he jerks off to the right. He yanks me to the right, and we go down this ditch and up this embankment. And he takes me to the side door of a house. Like, we had to go through somebody's backyard, and he takes me to the side of this house. No shit, the guy was in the house, in the back bedroom, covered himself up with sheets. My dog tracked from the spot where he left his car door to the exact door that he went into. I mean, these dogs' noses are just absolutely amazing. They really are. We did have one canine on the team, though, that was just completely uncontrollable. This dog, I have never met a more aggressive dog in my entire life. His handler's probably the only handler that could control this dog. So someone on his shift ends up making a traffic stop, and there's a woman, I guess, driving, and she got out of the car and started running. So this officer calls for K-9, and this guy shows up with his dog, and they end up tracking like down the street and through a couple houses and stuff like that. So out of nowhere, this little bastard shoots under a house, and the next thing they hear is screaming. Keep in mind, this is like a little 45 pound dog. This dog was tiny. You know how dogs, when they play tug of war, like their whole body will scrunch up as they're pulling? This 45 pound dog pulled a 130 pound woman out from under this house by her head. Literally pulled her out by her scalp. That's the kind of dog that belongs in Afghanistan. Like, that doesn't necessarily belong on the streets. So anyway guys, I'm going to try to keep this short. This is already going to be a long video. Being a K-9 handler was extremely rewarding. We found a lot of drugs, we found people that were running, that were wanted, and having a K-9 is really the best partner that you could ever imagine. My K-9 always let me know if somebody was around my car. It was a great deterrent, and they're more loyal than most people are. Anytime I got out of the car with my dog, everybody decided to act right. And it's really cool because most people don't know this, but a lot of K-9 handlers have what's called a door popper. So whenever I press a button that's on my belt, my back door will pop open. So if I'm in a fight on a traffic stop or whatever, I could just hit that button and my partner was out. Luckily, I never had to use that feature, but it was nice to have it. So guys, I hope this answered some questions. If you have any more, just let me know in the comments section below and I'll be happy to answer them. Hope everyone has a great day and I will see you soon.